We start with a point. Hi, my name is Bryanton, and this is a special edition of the Imagining the 10th Dimension video blog. Not long ago, the amazingly energetic Dr. Mark Filippi of somaspace.org invited me to attend the 2010 Coherence conference, which took place at the University of Bridgeport in October. Unfortunately, my schedule didn't allow me to participate, but there were 4 basic questions Dr. Mark asked everyone to consider prior to the conference, and I'd like to share my responses with you now. This conference focused on the burgeoning field of Health 2.0 and brought together a wide range of speakers from various disciplines to discuss the importance of coherence as it relates to people's well-being. Since I'm not a health professional, I'm sure there would have been a lot of eye-opening discussions for me, but I'm also sure that my own approach would have added some new ideas to the discussion. I'm particularly interested in the idea that our reality is shifting as people become more and more connected to each other. Definitely a coherence-related concept. Here's the questions that Dr. Mark, as chair of the event, asked all participants to respond to. Question 1. Define coherence in your terms. Here's how I first learned about the concept of coherence. Our reality is constructed through constructive interference from a fifth-dimensional probability space, which contains a wave function which can be thought of as the constantly evolving map of possible pasts and futures that connect each of us to our current now. Those past and future paths are coherent with our current now, while the pasts and futures of the universe that are logically, causally incompatible are decoherent. Coherence, then, connects us to the multiverse as per Everett's many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. Speaking philosophically, coherence as a goal is finding ways for each of us to better connect to the preferred versions of the universe that already exist within the underlying patterns of timelessness, which, to avoid confusion with the multiple definitions of the word multiverse, I've come to prefer to refer to as the omniverse. My project, Imagining the 10th Dimension, has been an ongoing exploration of how we fit into these underlying patterns. I recently posted a video to YouTube called Strength of Gravity, Speed of Light, which shows one example of how my project is about trying to find the common meeting ground between physics and philosophy, between science and spirituality. A recent blog entry which goes even further out on a limb with these ideas is called Love and Gravity. In that one, I look at what would more commonly be called New Age phrases and relate them to my approach to visualizing the extraspatial dimensions our reality comes from. Those phrases are, the universe loves you. Your body's natural inclination is to want to heal, to want to thrive. And there are forces outside of our reality which are trying to move us towards a better future. Question 2. What are the key applications of your definition? Understanding how each of us is at the center of our own unique version of the universe gives us a way of understanding our connectedness to the reality we are observing, and our connectedness to others who are interacting with us as that reality is being observed. We each have more power than 20th century science has traditionally taught us to believe, and the new science of epigenetics is a prime example of that. Who would have believed 20 years ago that studies could prove that changes in diet, lifestyle, and attitude can change which genes are expressed and even influence which genes we pass on to our offspring? A YouTube video I posted last month called Placebos Becoming More Effective relates to this discussion. Question 3. What do you see as the major impact of your application within your field? I'm a generalist, interested in exploring the common meeting ground between ancient spirituality and modern science. I'm always careful to point out that I'm not a physicist and I'm not pretending to be one, but my visual approach to understanding the 10 spatial dimensions that our reality comes from has fired the imaginations of millions of people around the world. By the way, I often get asked, aren't there really 11 dimensions? And I'm always careful to point out that those 11 dimensions in M-theory are 10 spatial dimensions plus one of time. And since I agree with the many physicists who say that ultimately time is an illusion, I prefer not to count that as a dimension. Question 4. What do you see as the major impact of your application outside your field? Outside my field? Well, for persons who insist that spirituality has no place in science, or religious fundamentalists who say that science is delusion, or hard determinists who say free will is an illusion, my project will not likely convince them to change the conclusions they've already reached. Other than that, it's difficult to pin down exactly what the phrase outside my field would mean, since the main goal of my project is to find ways to be as inclusive as possible in discussing where our reality comes from and the significance of our individual roles as participants in that process. For more about how my idea of our reality coming from a fifth-dimensional probability space is receiving more mainstream consideration this year, please watch my video for the Fifth Dimensional Camera Project. And as I always like to say, enjoy the journey. By the way, the next video we'll be looking at in this series is called Thinking Biggest, and I hope to see you then.